Welcome to another Forte Growth episode where we interview people doing awesome things online. We go over their successes, insights, and any failures to keep you motivated and inspired. Sit back. Let's go.
Welcome to the Forte Growth Podcast. It was an awesome episode today with Kasra Dash, and Kasra's done the podcast rounds a little bit before this, but now we got him on the Forte Growth Podcast, and we chatted a range of different topics. And we start with his rank and rent properties with his agency. So we dive a little bit into local. Even if you're not into local SEO, there's still a lot to take from it, especially if you're potentially looking to maybe go into some kind of lead generation there. We dive into the citations, EAT, we dive into tiered link building, and then we go pretty deep into toxic links. And there's myths surrounding link building in SEO that there's no such thing as toxic links. Google will ignore all bad links and you're fine. He's done case study after case study showing that's not the case. He disavows links regularly for many different sites, and he runs through some of his process there. A lot of it comes around an expensive tool. So doing yourself probably isn't advised, and you're better off hiring someone like Kasra to do that for you. But he talks about disavowing links and how potentially you're disavowing too late if you've already been hit, and it should be something that you do proactively. We dive into him being an ODYS mentor, and we also go into more of his affiliate sites around casino and gambling and how that differs and how you can set yourself apart in those niches. Obviously very competitive, but very lucrative. And then we go into stock images as well. So stock images on your website is obviously, some people are saying unique images as much as possible. Kasra sees it the same way regarding unique images and seeing benefits from using unique images over stock images. So this is a jam-packed episode. I hope you enjoy it, but sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Forte Growth Podcast. Today we have Kasra Dash. Welcome, Kasra.
Thanks for having me on, James.
Thanks for coming on. We met briefly in Vegas at Digital Unfiltered. So good to meet you in person and then bring you on the pod. I think you've been doing a few pods in the niche website space not too long ago. So it's good to bring you on some more. But for people who aren't familiar with you, do you want to give a brief background about yourself?
Yes, so I started off doing rank and rents maybe 4 years ago now. I have built up a pretty big rank and rent agency, 650 websites. We also have 12 gambling affiliate websites. We do a lot in the casino industry as well. And I also have a link building and disavow agency called Searcheroo. You can check them out, searcheroo.com.
Sweet. Damn. Okay. So you're in a few different things. Rank and rent's interesting. I quite like the idea of ranking stuff in potentially less competitive markets than your typical affiliate. But then how are you selling leads? Are you actually renting them out to companies, or are you going through a broker that you sell leads to?
So we always found that the brokers always essentially try to get the most amount of money from you. So what we've essentially done is we have quite a big outreach team that outreaches to websites that are potentially running PPC or Facebook ads. And we'll essentially hit them up like, hey, how's your PPC campaign going? Or, hey, how's your Facebook ads campaign going? And a lot of the times, like, the managing directors or the company founders understand that they need more business. Like, obviously leads is like the oxygen to their company. If you cut that off, then there's no company there. There's no money to be made. So essentially, as soon as they hear about an agency like ours, they are very quick to jump on the bandwagon of, yeah, I need inquiries. And then they essentially just hit us up and we essentially do business from that point of view.
Are you building basically rank and rank assets specifically for them, or you already have them in place?
So again, it's a mixed bag because we've got like 650, 700 websites. They are sometimes built prior to them. Sometimes they will inquire to us and they'll say, hey, I've got a solar company that works in Aberdeen, Scotland. Can you provide me more inquiries? And then we'll essentially rent out or rank a website and then rent out to them, or work on a cost per lead model.
Interesting. How'd you get started in that? Was that the first thing that you ended up doing?
So my business partner had already set that up. I just took it on to another level. I think when I essentially met James Dooley, he probably had about 250, 300 websites. And then just doubled it over the time. But yeah, it's got a massive team behind it. Like we've got guys that are just doing R&D, like testing, making sure like what works, what doesn't work. Like there's a lot of SEO myths. There's a lot of myths that need to be busted. Anything I hear, I essentially send to those guys and they're like, right, okay, we'll test it out. We'll send you the results in 2, 3, 4 weeks time. So we've got a team for that. We have a team that solely does outreach. Now that team also does like outreach for like link building and stuff like that as well. But again, it's 2 very different pitches. So like if they're pitching to like a local plumber in London, it's going to be very different to pitching for a backlink, for example.
Yeah.
So we have a team for that. We have a content team. We have a link building team. We have an army, to say the least.
I was going to say, yeah, that is a huge team. But I want to dive into a little bit your processes around creating these rank and rent sites. Because I'm assuming, depending on the client, obviously some might be more competitive than others. So I guess, does the competitiveness matter to you in terms of the clients you take on? And then regarding competitiveness, how do you tackle, I guess, starting a new site and ranking?
Yeah. So from a competitiveness point of view, what we essentially do is say, if you were to just go after the seed keyword plumbers in London, that's going to be pretty competitive. You don't want to probably go for that because sometimes it might be Sandra down the road that has a leaky tap and it's like a $20, $30 fix or £20, £30 fix. And it's like, well, you're not going to get that much kickbacks from that inquiry, right? So what we essentially try to do is like, if we were to like reach out to somebody like yourself or a business owner, and they're like, right, okay, I do plumbing. And it's like, right, okay, well, just plumbing in general is very generic. What makes you the most amount of money? And they might come back to us and say, well, boiler installations, because it might be like a $3,000 job. And it's like, right, okay, now we're talking. Or in some cases, it might be like a wet room job. So for example, wet rooms is a really good industry because they need to do like all the tile work. They need to fit like a proper like shower. They need to redo all the toilets. So in that case, then you're going after like toilet remodeling or like toilet what do they call it? So I believe it's like toilet remodeling or like toilet repairs as well is another good one. So we always try and dig a little bit deeper with the actual business owners. And 9 times out of 10, the first website that they recommend to us, it isn't going to be the money maker. It's going to be like after they get like 4 or 5 inquiries, they're like, right, actually we do this type of inquiry as well. And that's when we build like a second and third website for them. So that's what we essentially do with like the rank and rent model.
Interesting. Okay, so you basically niche right down. But are there any industries that you don't like to go into because maybe the service price is just too low, or I don't know, maybe they're just useless contractors that don't follow up with their leads and things like that?
I mean, we have a certain criteria when we're reaching out to people. Like, so I'll give you an example. If we figure out that the business owner is a one-man band that has a van and maybe just like an apprentice, for example, it's probably not going to work out. What we try to do is we ideally want a client that has a dedicated sales team that has strict KPIs in place. So if I'm generating you inquiries for plumbing, I'd expect you to at least get back to the inquiries within a day. Because if somebody has like a leaky tap and there's water everywhere, there's water all over their living room, they're not going to wait for you for like a week until like you reply back to the email. So that's essentially what we're looking for, like a dedicated sales team, maybe like a 4, 5, 6 person business. That's what we try to go after. And then in some cases, to be honest, like we have had like smaller companies with like 2 or 3 person operations. And because we've been working with them for like 4 or 5 years, now they have a big, massive office. Like one of our clients that's located in Manchester, when we initially started with them, they were a 3-person operation. Now they've scaled to 14 people over the past 2 years. So it's great to see stuff like that, especially like with the ranking rents. That's like when you get a really good buzz out of it.
Oh, that's awesome. And my local SEO, I guess, knowledge is relatively low and small. I think a lot of people listening might not be in local SEO either. A lot of people might be in kind of like that ads affiliate stuff. But regarding rank and rent, how important are you just trying to rank the GMB profiles as that's like your main thing, or is the organic, I guess, the blue link in the search as well? Is that something that still drives traffic too?
So we do a mixture of both. One thing that we found from an EEAT point of view is if you have a GMB, or if you can get a GMB attached to the Rank and Rent website, then it helps massively. I know that there's people that like try to auto verify them and stuff like that. We've had like bad experiences in the past. Like we try to do everything by the books. So again, like call me white hat, but one thing I don't want to do is build out a GMB for 4 or 5 months and then it gets banned after that, because you can essentially lose a lot of money doing that. We always try to like reach out to the client and say, hey, can we send like a postcard out to your address? And that's how we typically do it when it comes to the GMBs. But we mainly deal with like the actual organic rankings. Like what we'll do is like we'll essentially use our gambling affiliate websites. Like we'll test something out and we'll like, oh, like for example, 2-3 years ago, the FAQ schema was a really big thing. So we tested it out on our gambling affiliate sites. We're like, oh my God, this works really well. So then we scaled it down to all of our location websites and we've done the FAQ schemas, and that affected our bottom line. So it's really good to essentially test, and then just scale it back down to like the local sites. As for like the local ranking wise, there's not much difference. Like again, like the core algorithm is content and links. So produce really good quality content and get really good backlinks pointing through to your website. One thing I will say is that local websites, you can get away with a lot more. So what I mean by that is local citations, you can get a blast of 200-300 of them, or so some might go after like more niched local citations. So for the niche ones, you might only get like 50, 60. Foundation links work really well. So social web 2s, all of those work really well, especially if you hit those with like tier 2 links. So one thing that we do with our tiered link building is like niche edits to all of our web 2 profiles, making sure that they get indexed, and then it all just points back up to your website. So that's what we do for our local websites. I don't think I've missed anything out. Again, there's probably something that I've missed out in there, but from a very gist point of view, that's probably it.
I've got plenty of questions for you, but first one is around the FAQ schema. Obviously, Google came out recently saying that basically they're going to stop it. Is that stopping you from doing them?
Yeah, so we have seen a little bit of a dip from like the pages that we did have the FAQ on. But again, like 2-3 years ago, I think Matthew Woodward was the first person to come out with the FAQ schema, and everyone just jumped on the bandwagon. And I remember originally you could get like 6 or 7 FAQs, then they'd done maximum 3. And then I think the last like 2-3 months ago was like maximum 2. So they did really nerf it. But way back like 2 years ago, you could literally just like control the SERP with like 6 or 7 FAQs.
Does that mean you're going to stop writing them all together for your posts?
So we will probably, again, this is one thing that the R&D team is testing at the minute. So don't quote me on this if this goes out to like a lot of people, but what we will be doing is we'll have it part of the content. So essentially we'll be removing it out of the FAQ and having it part of the actual main body page. But again, we are testing to see like what the results are, if we actually still get impressions based off the FAQs and stuff like that. I have seen a lot of websites that have been hit, like there've been a lot on Twitter and stuff the past couple of weeks. So we are doing live testing at the minute.
Interesting. So then you'll be taking basically your H3 FAQs and then making them pretty much like H2 questions within the content. So it kind of just continues answering whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to have to look at doing some of that too. I know like people might be saying they're not going to do FAQs within their content, but a lot of the time it just helps round out the piece of content anyway, because there's questions you need to answer that someone might be asking. Same with the buyer's guides, right? Within like affiliate content, it's probably still important to have that stuff.
Yeah, exactly that. Like some pages we are still getting impressions for and clicks. The clicks have obviously just dipped a little bit because of like they've removed the FAQs and stuff. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one to test out, definitely.
Around the GMBs, can you still, or is there a way to create GMBs without having a physical location? For example, someone wants to get into rank and rent, and they want to sell leads to whatever it is, but they want to rank in local. and they want GMB, but you don't have a location?
I'm probably not the best person to ask on that.
Not black hat enough. Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely not black hat enough. There's probably guys like Mike Malerno, Brock Mesner and stuff like that probably know a lot more on the GMB side of stuff. If I'm being honest with you, James, I've not logged into like a Google My Business profile in probably 12 months. I've got somebody in the team that does it. I'm not the best person to ask on that.
No, fair enough.
Yeah.
And you mentioned as well around the citations and things for your local server, local business.
Mhm.
Now I know people like Carl Roof have talked about stuff like that for you, even your affiliate sites. If you have like a GMB address up, is that something you do at all? Maybe for your casino sites or other affiliate sites?
Yes, definitely. Like, again, I used to think that EAT was just a load of nonsense. There was a lot of people speaking about it, and I'm like, well, I don't have this, I don't have that, and my websites are ranking. Now, we have done, I don't know, over 100 EAT audits for like a lot of clients and stuff like that have come to us. And a lot of the websites that were hit by Rater Hub, that have been hit by Offer Transparency, as soon as they do everything that's in the EAT audit and they apply it to their website after a core algorithm update, I've had 2 people contact me today saying my website's back 75% of the way of where it was just after that core algorithm update, which was, I believe, last week. I could be wrong, maybe 2 weeks ago. So it's definitely a thing. What I would mention is that it's one of those where it's probably like 20, 30 things that you just need to get on your website, and then it's out of the way. You don't need to worry about it. You're covered then. So that's my thoughts on EAT. When it comes to the GMB, again, it plays a massive factor. Like, that's one of the things that we check for websites if they do have a GMB. Like, again, most genuine businesses, not like what our like the black hat guys and stuff like that try to do, is genuine businesses have a GMB, and they've probably had a GMB for 4, 5, 6, 10 years. So if you can get a GMB, definitely do it. It's something that I massively recommend. One test that we've done, I believe this was 6 months ago now, was we attached a GMB to a website that didn't have a GMB. 2 things that we noticed: massive increase in crawlability. So the crawl budget of that website jumped up massively. Like, I want to say it was maybe triple the crawl budget.
Okay.
And the second thing was obviously the clicks and impressions increased. That's probably mainly to do with the crawl budget being increased. That's the one thing that we actually done on that website. So it was kind of like a closed off test. Like, we didn't build any more links. We didn't increase the content velocity at all. Just by attaching a GMB, it had a massive positive impact on the website.
Interesting. Okay. And you mentioned around the EAT as well, and the various audits and things. You mentioned citations, maybe for affiliate sites being one of them. What else are you then putting into that EAT bucket for someone that they should do for their site?
So offer transparency is massive. Making sure that, like, for example, you have a fitness website. I'll use that as an example, right? Somebody goes onto that website and they read the guide on the best creatine, right? The best creatine 2023. And then they end up dying, right? It needs to be very clear as to who actually produced that content. So a lot of people think, oh, well, I've ticked the EAT, I've got an offer box and I've got an offer page. That's not the case. Is your offer actually mentioned on other websites? Elon Musk isn't just mentioned on Tesla. He's not just mentioned on SpaceX. He's not just mentioned on Twitter. He's mentioned on BBC all the time. Now, again, I'm not saying go and build BBC links, right? Because they can cost you thousands. But if you can actually mention your person on various websites, like prime example, if you were to just do a search right now, Kasra Dash, you'll see that I'm mentioned on various websites. You can very quickly tell that, like, I know a thing or two about SEO. I've got like the knowledge panel, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what Google essentially looks at when they're going through your website. And again, it's part of the Google Quality Guidelines PDF as well. It's like the 300-page PDF that like literally nobody wants to read. I sadly did read it. And again, it's one of the checks, especially if you're in like fitness, if you're in YMYL, if you're in anything to do with like finance. They're very, very thorough when they're checking through websites.
So how do you go about increasing their visibility across the servers? It's just a matter of link building using your name.
Yeah, link building. So like making sure that your name is mentioned on other websites. So for example, if I had a fitness blog, I would want to make certain that there are 20, 30, 100 other websites mentioning that Kasra Dash is a pro lifter, or he's the best when it comes to jiu-jitsu, or whatever the actual industry is. Or if, say, for example, I'm going into finance, I'd want to make certain that there's websites mentioning that I am a expert when it comes to reviewing credit cards or whatever it might be.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, that sounds also like that it could be relatively easy to game, right? Even if you created a persona.
Yeah. So the one caveat to that is the website, this person doesn't exist, where it's like a made up.
Yeah.
The one thing that I dislike about that is a real person has like few hundred photos, like the photos of you in the gym. That's the one thing that I don't like about this person doesn't exist. It just throws out one photo and it's a little pixelated. The eyes are always a little bit weird.
Yeah.
Like, try and get, like, I don't know, like you could use a friend, for example. Like, a lot of people don't like to use their name when it comes to building out an affiliate website because they don't want other people to know who owns the website. You can always use a friend or your wife or whatever. But then if you can just get like an array of photos on various different websites mentioning that Kasra Dash is a pro kickboxer and he's thrown up a kickboxing website and these are the best kickboxing gloves or whatever it is, then definitely it can be gamed. We do it all the time. So yeah.
And that's probably, I guess, with the new updates coming out and things like that, that's probably something, if someone doesn't have a persona on their site, that's probably something you would recommend they start getting into ASAP, because I guess the way things are going, kind of faceless, authorless sites are kind of being faded out.
Yeah. Like, one test or one thing that I have noticed, and again, I would love for someone to watch this video and prove me wrong, like just email me being like, Kaz, you're lying here, right? I am yet to see a website that has the offers with a knowledge panel that's tanked. So just for anybody that didn't understand that, get, like, say, for example, my name, Kasra Dash, right? I've got a knowledge panel if you search my name. If, say, for example, you were to do James Dash, right? James Dash is just a made up name. Let's say it's a persona. Any website that doesn't have knowledge panels for their offers, has tanked. Any website that does have knowledge panels for their offers hasn't tanked. I'm yet to see a website that has that. Again, I'd love to be proven wrong.
Interesting. Yeah, I've noticed similar things with other, I wouldn't call them, I guess you could call them citations or links. For example, with my site, I've got my ResearchGate profile. Where I've published academic research, links to my site. My Google Scholar profile also links to my site. So I think those things do help. I mean, maybe there's one day a Black Hat service that will get you Google Scholar profiles or something like that for your persona.
I'm sure there is.
Who knows?
I'm sure there is.
You know, I haven't found one, but it could be something that someone decides to get into after listening to this. But you also talked about tiered link building, and tiered link building is always something that I'm always thinking about, but I'm always juggling whether it's worth investing the money into tier 2s to pump up tier 1s or to create more tier 1 links. And how do you decide when it is time to, let's talk in the context of an affiliate display ad website. How do you know when it's time to expand into those tiers versus still powering up through tier 1 links?
So this is actually quite a common question that I get asked. And a lot of people go and buy guest posts or they go and buy link insertions. And they then come to me and they're like, hey, I've been buying $4,000 worth of links from XYZ provider. I've not seen any results. What should I do? And I'll look through like all the links that they've acquired. Like, let's say you're trying to rank for best male running shoes and they've hit a load of exact match anchors, or they've done partial match or branded or whatever else. And they've not seen the jumps that they essentially wanted to. Now, some of those guest posts, again, I'm not saying that those guest posts might be terrible. Like, some of them I've seen on like DR65, DR70 websites. and the content's obviously relevant to what they're linking out to. But what they need to be doing is essentially tiered link building to those exact match anchors or those partial match anchors. And the reason for that is because, yes, you have got a relevant website linking through to your money page. Yes, the website's a DR60 or a DR50 or whatever it is. Yes, the website is highly relevant to what you're trying to rank for. But again, that page needs more power going through to it. That page might be on a website. Like, say, for example, you got a link from Forbes, and Forbes might be, 500,000 pages big, the website. That page still needs links going through to it and also more page rank going through to it, which then goes back to your website. So that's the biggest thing that I would recommend. Like, no website isn't ready for, or actually there's always caveats to these things, right? Like, there's a lot of websites that I look at and they're like, yeah, they definitely need tier 2 links. Unless like you're just recently launched a website. Again, I probably would just build more tier 1s. But let's say you have a website that's been going around for like 12 months. You've built 80 links or 50 links. You probably should be powering up your tier 1 links with tier 2 links.
So how do you go about doing that without pissing off the other site owner? For example, are you only doing this to like big news sites? Or
No,
is this something you'd even do to like a DR40 or something like that?
A lot of people do tier 2 links a very spammy way. Like, they'll do GSA or Web 2s or whatever and point it through to that. Again, we just do niche edits. So like, again, the links going through, like, for example, Search.ru does tier 2s. The tier 2s aren't like bad quality. They're not like spammy links in any way, shape or form. If anything, you're probably actually helping the website owner that you're building the tier 2s through to. So we've never had complaints. I know that people have built like spammy GSA blast, Web 2s. What's the other one? Is it X Rocket or something like that? The automated link building. It builds like 10,000 links in like 2 hours. We don't do any of that. Like, that would probably piss off a lot of people and they would probably remove your link. So yeah, don't do that. Actually just do quality links. You can maybe get away with stuff like that for like tier 4 and 5, but not a tier 2.
Does that change if you're going to a big news site or a big parasite, something like Forbes, or you still looking to hit those more quality edits?
The thing is, right, let's take a step back and say, right, okay, we've just went and bought jamesdelacy.com, right? Would you do that? And we
no one buy that, okay? No one buy that site.
Don't buy that. Don't buy that. He's going to go and buy after this podcast. But let's say we had a joint venture and we actually ended up buying jamesdelacy.com and we wanted to rank it for, I don't know, digital PR, right? Digital PR Florida. Would you GSA blast that website with 200-300 links in an afternoon? You probably wouldn't, right? And it's the same when it comes to guest posts, whether it is a parasite or a guest post or a link insertion. The best type of link you can get is a link that actually ranks for the keyword that you're going after. So say, for example, we want to rank for digital PR Florida. We would try and get a guest post that's ranking for benefits of digital PR. And the better that this guest post ranks, the more power we're essentially passing to our money site. So don't just try and spam the hell out of your guest posts. Actually try and rank them. And the best way to do that is actually doing quality links going through to it. Again, I'm not saying going and building like $6-7 grand worth of links to a guest post. That's not what I'm saying to do. But there's a lot of like DR 10 to 25 websites that you can get. Like that's the one thing that we do at Search.ru. Like, I think our tier 2s are $20, $25 a link. A lot of guys, like, they'll go and buy like, they'll go and buy like, I don't know, $500-600 worth of guest posts, and then they'll go and power up with like $200-300 worth of tier 2s. So it works out very well.
Shit. Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out. We'll have that in the description too for anyone listening. But I want to actually dive a little bit into the presentation you did at Digital Unfiltered in Vegas the other week, and I think you might have done that in Estonia too. But this idea around toxic links, because I mean, you talked about SEO myths, and one of the ones that I guess gets thrown around a lot is Google just ignores all the bad links that come through, and you don't need to do any disavowing, and your site's okay regardless of all the spammy links that come in. So do you want to just dive into a little bit of I guess, that myth and kind of how you came across this idea of toxic links?
Yeah, so we have time and time again proved this wrong. I'll tell you a little bit of a story, right? So probably about 2 years ago now, or 18 months ago, we had a friend, like really good friend, but he had a completely different viewpoint when it came to disavows. He said that disavows don't work, and he had said, well, I don't think that disavows work because I've used SEMrush and I've not seen any jumps. Now, we essentially decided to put that in like a mini mastermind, we like to call it. So there was 3 of us in total. We all 3 of us threw in a website each, and we were like, right, okay, let's tank these websites. Let's just try and tank these websites. His website, we'll call him Dave, right? Dave's website, we built 15 links through to it, and after about 4 months, 15, not 50, 15. After 4 months, it went from, I want to say it was 16,000 traffic down to 2.5. So
Wow.
it was completely
What
dead.
what were those links? Was the anchor text like branded still and stuff, or was it just complete spam?
Mixture. So it was
Okay.
branded. So one thing I will say is it wasn't spammed. It was actually going after keywords that he was trying to rank for. So again, if he was trying to rank for best running shoes, it was very, very natural looking links. Those
So
links.
what kind of sites were those then?
Guest post websites. These guest, and the worst thing about this is these guest post websites are on other guest post providers lists. And I know this for a fact because I've actually reached out to, I won't mention any names, but I've reached out to 4 or 5 different link building providers, and they have said, yes, we can build links on those websites.
Okay. All right. So there we go. Some background there. Carry on with that story till I interrupted you.
So yeah, we built 15 links to Dave's website, and it was like, oh, that's a bit bad. We've went from 15,000 traffic down to 2.5. These were all test websites. So they were again, for some people, they're like, oh my God, you've got 15,000 monthly hit website and it's your test website. Yeah. So we done that, went down to 2.5, and we done a disavow of, like, to be fair, he had more than just those 15 toxic links. We ended up disavowing, let's say 60, 75 links that he had bought. Very similar stats to the 15 toxic links. And we disavowed them and the website returned. Then we decided to remove the disavow again. And then we essentially recrawled all of his backlink profile and the website tanked again. So that was scenario number 1. Website number 2, very similar. I think on website number 2, we actually built 12 links. It wasn't even the 15 that we built. Again, 12 different websites. Again, very natural looking websites. You would say a lot of people would build links on these websites. That's the scary thing. Like I would have, if somebody's shown me these 12 websites at random, I would be like, yeah, they all have upward trajectory. They all have high DR, manipulated DR. They all rank for keywords. They were niche relevant. So toxic links is definitely a thing. Again, the second example, we built 12 links to it, and again, it tanked. We done the disavow, and then we also done a backlink rejuvenation pack, and it's went back up to where it was. Actually, I think it's a little bit more than what it actually was as well. So that was scenario number 2. And again, scenario number 3, like we done the disavow, and then it bounced back to the website. So Dave, the original friend that didn't believe in disavows, now 100% believes in disavows.
So how does someone know if a link's toxic? I know you use a software that's relatively expensive, but is there a way to look and see what potentially is toxic without a tool like that? Or maybe mention the tool too for anyone listening.
Yeah, it's link research tools that we use. I'm a massive advocate of it. Like, I build a lot of links just using LRT. One thing I will say is that you can mess up a lot very quickly if you go in blind just using it. So I don't recommend doing that. I would, like, owning the tool is one thing, learning how to use the tool is another. Like, everyone can go and throw out like 1,500 to 2K to go and buy the tool. But one thing that puts us up like very high is we have got the most expensive LRT package, which is now 18,000. I believe it's US. I could be wrong in saying that. It might be US or it might be euros. It's 18,000 a month to use it. We have got the biggest package. We have got a lot of prehistoric data as well, which always helps us massively. So when it comes to, like, for example, retraining the link building team, we essentially train them up to essentially look at all these different factors when placing links for actually client sites as well. So they've essentially been trained up on, like, I think there's over 3,500 disavows on it. So if you can imagine 3,500 disavows, let's say that all the websites on average have 1,000 referring domains, very quickly you'll be able to very quickly export all the lists, all the links, and say, right, okay, these 60% of these links are massively toxic, these 40% are good. So we've essentially been able to leech onto that almost. So yeah, link research tools is probably the best out there. Again, like, I don't want to say that SEMrush is a close second, because it's definitely not. There's a lot of things that SEMrush doesn't include. And again, I'm not trying to hate on it, but SEMrush and Ahrefs weren't built for disavows. They were built for looking at keywords, looking at actual link data, like where the links are coming from. They aren't going after the disavow market. So it's essentially like hiring a plumber to fit your new windows. It's just not going to work out.
Yeah. Do you do that as a standalone service, the disavow thing?
Yeah, we do.
What does that cost?
It massively depends on the size of the website and the amount of referring domains and the amount of backlinks. Like, we've done disavows from $500 to $20,000, $25,000. One story I will say is that the guy that has bought the most expensive disavow from us was, I think it was like $28,000, and he essentially had to disavow $60,000 worth of links. So in total, that disavow cost him like 80 plus.
But did he make it back after?
Yeah.
Did his site recover? Yeah.
So it's worth doing. It was a very big site, that though. Very big.
You mentioned a lot of the toxic links came from guest post sites, and if anyone looks at the Ahrefs backlink profile, you'll see every day, not guest post sites, but those random directories, things like TNT code, Zoacum, and all sorts of random shit. Are those considered toxic, or you just leave those?
Again, it would be very hard for me to say a definite yes or a definite no. Like, one thing that we've noticed after doing these like hundreds of disavows is that a toxic link for my website might not be toxic for yours. So let me give you an example. If I'm in, let's say, I'm trying to rank for lawyers in New York, and you're trying to rank for best casino sites New York, you can get away with a lot more toxicity than I can.
Yeah.
Like, so you can essentially get away with, like, let's say a 1,500 toxic link, but I wouldn't be able to, because that would completely mess up my threshold. So that's one thing that I would again, I can't give a definite yes or definite no. Like, for some websites it can be, for some websites it can't be. It also depends on the niche as well. So if you are in finance, for example, you can get away with a little bit more than you can, for example, with chiropractors. Chiropractors usually typically have directory websites and a few guest posts here and there sprinkled. So for a chiropractor website, directory websites might be able to push the needle, whereas guest posts might not be able to push the needle. So yeah.
Gotcha. So if someone was to go through, I don't know, maybe they did a disavow through you or through someone else, they disavow the links. Obviously you lose a shit ton of referring domains, but obviously those were potentially quote unquote toxic. Mm-hmm. What do you do after that? Do you have to then start to build more links to bring your referring domain count back up?
Yeah.
Will you see a boost in traffic almost instantly because those backlinks are gone already?
So one thing that we highly recommend is what we call as a backlink rejuvenation pack. Now, what a lot of people will do typically is they'll do a disavow and they'll be like, right, okay, I need to go and build more links, and they'll go back to their previous link building provider, right? He's the guy that essentially got you in that mess, right? You don't want to go back to him. Like, a really good analogy that I like to use is it's like having a heart attack, right? You go to the hospital, they give you your IV drip, and then next day or in a couple of weeks' time, you're like, right, okay, I'm feeling great. Let's go and have some Burger King, or let's go and have a Big Mac, right? You don't want to be doing that. That's the worst thing you can possibly do. So that's where we do like the backlink rejuvenation. We probably do it for like 2 2 to like 6 months after, depending on like the size of the website and stuff.
Mm.
The backlink rejuvenation, we again use LRT to build the links, but we are going after high trustworthy and high powerful links based off of your disavow. So every backlink rejuvenation pack is completely different. Like if you gave me 6 websites to do disavows for, every single website would have a different backlink rejuvenation pack based off of your toxicity, based off of your power, based off of the trust of your website, and also based off of like how many links and stuff like that we've had to disavow. So if you had 2 exact same websites, and website number 1, we disavowed 25 links, and website number 2, we disavowed 300 links, website number 2, we would need to build more links through in the backlink rejuvenation pack. Now, again, with like the anchors and stuff like that, we go with very trustworthy, very much branded anchors. So it's like super safe links. And then, yeah, we essentially do that for however many months that we need to. And to answer your second question, how quickly do you see a result? So we have seen the biggest results after a core algorithm update. So one thing that I have heard from various different sources, like for example, Corey has said like he's seen the biggest amount of jumps after a core algorithm update, mainly because they reevaluate your entire website and they reevaluate like all of your backlinks and stuff like that. It's essentially like kind of starting from scratch in a weird way. I'm sure he'll probably have a very detailed video going into it and stuff. But yeah, he's shown me a lot of patents and stuff, and it's like, right, okay, that makes sense. Like he's like, if there's one person you want to speak to about when it comes to patents, it's probably Corey. He's like he knows it all. But a lot of the stuff that he's shown my team, it does make sense. Like you see the biggest amount of bounce backs after a core algorithm update.
Interesting. Can toxic links, obviously you talked about how you sent a few to a site and it kind of tanked the traffic, but could a stagnant site, for example, one that's just kind of flatlined in traffic and isn't growing, could that also be a sign of potential toxic links?
Yeah. So again, one thing that a lot of people do is they leave a disavow too late. So they'll get a disavow after their website has completely dropped off the face of the earth. That's essentially like waiting for your car to run out of petrol or fuel and then being like, oh, I've run out of petrol. I need to go and walk 10 miles that way, get some petrol, walk 10 miles back, and then fill my car up. You don't want to be doing that. So like, again, one thing that I mentioned in my talk at Digital Unfiltered was we do a massive amount of proactive disavows. Like we have some big news publication sites in the UK buying like some buy disavows every month from us, some buy every 2 months, and some buy every quarter. Again, it depends on the size of the website. The guy that buys, or the team that buys a disavow every month from us, they are a massive website. I'd be surprised if a lot of the viewers didn't know the name of the website, a massive news publication. But yeah, a lot of people leave a disavow too late, and that's the worst thing you could possibly do. Like sometimes what you will find, or what we found, is your website can also still be growing, but you still have toxic links, but it's like minus 20%. So yes, your website is on an upward trajectory, but again, try and do proactive disavows. It's massive at the minute, especially the more people that are like publishing more ChatGPT articles and stuff like that. You want to essentially have the strongest backlink profile you possibly can, and getting rid of the toxic links will massively help.
Interesting. Okay. So that basically busts the whole Google ignores all the poor links you have. And I guess
there is a caveat to that. Google does ignore very bad links. So if I was to go and build a load of links to jamesdelacy.com, I know it's not a website, right?
Stop building links to my site, man.
But if I was to go and build like a load of toxic links, a lot of like spammy links, Viagra and stuff like that shit that just doesn't work anymore. They stopped ignoring that way, like I want to say like 2 years ago, they probably stopped ignoring stuff like that, maybe even longer. But yeah, if your go-to strategy for a negative SEO attack is like just building a load of links like that, then yeah, Google are going to ignore those. I know that again, there's people that have like fresh lists for GSA and stuff like that. You can do a little bit of damage with stuff like that, but a lot of like the zero value citations, like if you load up Fiverr now and search citations, there's a lot of like gigs that offer you like 600 links for $15 or whatever else. A lot of those are ignored.
Okay. That's good to know too. And I know as well, you recently became an ODYS mentor. Do you want to maybe dive into that a little bit? What does that mean for people listening? Can they contact you for help on certain things?
Yes, they can at odys.global. So they basically, me and Alex go quite a fair bit back, and Alex, I essentially, or me and my business partner bought a domain maybe 3 years ago now from Alex. It was an expired domain in the gambling industry, and it is valued at our second most expensive asset in our company. I believe it's valued at about 3.4 million. So again, it's made for a very good case study for ODYS. And essentially he reached out to me very recently and said, hey, like, it just makes sense. Like, you have done what a lot of ODYS customers want to do. For anybody that doesn't know ODYS, you can buy expired domains, and essentially you can skip the whole sandbox process. So for anybody that doesn't know what the sandbox is, if you were to go and buy a fresh domain and throw a load of articles up on it, it would take a longer period of time as opposed to going and buying a expired domain and throwing a load of articles on it. So you're essentially skipping like 5-6 months worth of wait. And also you don't need to do as much link building because all the ODYS websites or all the inventory has like, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 referring domains or backlinks and stuff like that. So yeah, he essentially reached out to me and said, hey, it just makes sense. Like, a lot of the ODYS customers want to do what you've done. Buy an expired domain, build an affiliate website or 301 the website to an asset that they pre-own and essentially sell that asset. So it just made sense. So yeah, I'm officially an ODYS mentor, and very quickly I will be publishing like a load of like essentially case studies on domains that they have in their inventory and what you can essentially do, like giving ideas, like say, for example, if they have a expired domain on running, I could do a video saying, hey, this is what I would do. These are the articles that I would publish, and this is how I would monetize the website. So it's essentially like a hand holding for anybody that wants to get into affiliate marketing, or in some cases, people actually already know what they want to do. And they can essentially watch the videos and be like, get a few ideas and essentially roll with it at that point, take action.
That's sick. And if ODYS is listening to this, make sure you sponsor the podcast too. We just gave you some good shout outs there as well. So always looking for sponsors. But around the affiliate side, you talked about casino. What made you go into casino? Because casino is damn hard. Obviously, you've got the skills to go in there. Mm-hmm. Is that the kind of, is it just so lucrative you just couldn't resist?
Yeah, like I think I've actually mentioned this on another podcast. It might have been Matt Diggy or it might have been Matthew Woodward. They released like a couple years ago, the top 10 hardest industries, right? And we were in like 8 out of the 10. We're like, why do we do this to ourselves? We've got all these rank and rents. Like, why are we in gambling? Why are we in pharma? Why are we in finance, etc., etc.? The reason why I'm in gambling is because, first of all, I've got the team to do it. You need a massive team. You also need, like, outside of like just the SEO side of stuff, you need a team to just help with monetization. Like, we've got affiliate managers from, for example, Bet365, etc., contacting us at like 2 a.m. saying, hey, can you update this T's and C's, or hey, can you update this page? And if you don't update it within a certain period of time, like, they will essentially ban your affiliate account. So all the money that you've earned is just gone overnight. So we had the team to do it. Second of all, anything that we learn off the gambling affiliate sites, we can essentially roll out to the local rank and rent websites that are way easier. So anything that we learn all the way up here, we can essentially roll out all the way down there. And yeah, to be honest, I just like a challenge. One thing I would hate this is if I had a website and it just ranked number 1 for every single keyword. I would hate that, because then I'm like, right, okay, this isn't a challenge anymore. Like, what can I do? I always enjoy fighting the algorithm.
It sounds like you got a few of those sites too. Is it almost like a mini network of gambling sites? They all kind of link together, or they all standalone?
Some link to actually, yeah, I believe some of them link to each other. Some of them are standalone. The ones that obviously make sense to link to each other, like say for example, if we've got 3 websites all in slots, it will make sense to link to one another. If say for example we have one in football betting and one in slots, it's like, well, is it relevant? Is it not? Some pages are. Don't get me wrong. Like both of them fall under the gambling bubble, but in some cases we don't. In some cases we do. We just try and mix it up as much as we can.
Would say just a general affiliate person, someone who's in a quote unquote white hat niche, the skills they learned there, for example, keyword research, writing the content to rank, just general link building, what goes on past that to be able to actually be successful in gambling and casino? Because I'm assuming you'll do the same stuff, but there must be some other things behind the scenes that need to be done for you to actually start ranking page one.
Yeah, I think when it comes to industries like finance, like gambling, the biggest thing is like the actual user experience on your website. And that might sound super white hat, but like when it comes to these tougher industries, you need to be great at CRO. You need to be great at content. You need to have the best links. You need to have the fastest website. Your content needs to be concise. You can't fluff around with your content. Like the days of writing content and it's like, okay, hey, content writer, I want this article, 2,000 words, please. Thank you. Bye. Those days are long gone. If you're trying to rank in gambling or in finance and stuff, you need to be like the top 1% if you're trying to rank in those industries. So that's one thing that I would strongly suggest. And also like testing loads, like testing your links, testing your like content. There's a team again that goes in and just optimizes our page titles every like 2 weeks. And they also optimize the starting paragraph of the pages. Like say for example, if we launch a page and we're like, why is it on page 3? That this page deserves to be higher up. We will re-optimize that content. So it's not always just about just mass producing 6,000-7,000 articles. You need to be going back in and making sure that the content's up to date and concise, and also you're going back in and adding secondary keywords into it.
What are you using to optimize the content?
We use, so that is, I'll give you 2 answers for that. Or actually, I'll give you various answers. We use MarketMuse, which is pretty expensive. We use Surfer SEO. We use autoblogging.ai. We use Phrase. What's Phrase? Is it .io?
Yeah, I think it's .io.
Phrase.io. Yeah, Phrase.io. And we also use onpage.ai as well. Again, all of these tools have their pros and cons. So for example, the pros of Surfer SEO is that it is quick and very easy to use. However, it takes a very long amount of time and the questions aren't always great that it gets back. Phrase.io has pretty decent questions that it pulls back, but the actual main body content isn't that well optimized. MarketMuse, the UI is pretty like it's not pretty, let's say the least, but the questions that it pulls back is on another level. MarketMuse. Autoblogging.ai is probably the best overall for like anyone in local or anyone that's wanting to try and just scale out a website as quick as they can, mainly because it also publishes to your website as well. So you can essentially give it like 200-300 titles and it'll go and mass produce it and also publish it onto your website. So when it comes to anything that's like medium difficulty, we'll use autoblogging. Anything that needs a little bit more love and care, we would use MarketMuse.
Gotcha. And if someone has access to these tools, that have a successful affiliate site and they're looking to maybe get into something lucrative like casino and gambling, as writing content, answering simple questions, for example, taking your slots, best time of day to play slots to hit the jackpot, how to beat this game, etc., etc. Are these types of articles, are they going to, it's a very general question, are they going to rank in that niche if you're filling a site of like a typical affiliate display ad person would, and you kind of covered the whole slot, quote unquote, topical authority within that? Because to me, from the outside looking into casino, it just seems like you can't do what you would normally do on a display at affiliate site. You can't just do that and rank. You need more. And if you're optimizing your content, is that enough, including building links?
Yeah, like again, you need to have really good content and you need to have really good links. Like a lot of the links that you would probably get away with in, for example, local, like what I said before, like local, you can get away with a lot. When it comes to gambling, you can't. You need to be like the top 1%. Like there's not a magic button that I press. I wish there was a magic button that I press and it just ranks me number one. That is not the case. You need to essentially structure your content output a lot better. So again, going back to what I was saying before, content velocity, it's not just about mass producing loads of content. What you need to do is take a step back and be like, right, okay, I am going to only talk about one subject on this website until I cover the topic in its entirety. And that's when I'm going to switch over to another article or another topic. So for example, if I was going to be doing a website on just gambling in general, I would talk about just slots to begin with, or I would maybe even go back one more step and just talk about a certain type of software within slots. That's kind of like going down and saying, right, okay, Adidas running shoes, but then I'm going to only talk about white Adidas running shoes. So you need to go back as much as you can, cover the topic in its entirety, and then move on to the next, mainly because the articles that are being published on the website, it's clear as day, right? Okay, this guy, James, just went and bought a domain. He is only talking about micro gaming slot websites. Now he's talking about another slot brand, or another slot software. So very easily Google's like, oh, okay, this website's talking about slots. It's easy. Okay, we're going to rank them higher for this.
Gotcha. And we also talked a little bit about, before the podcast, about stock images and some of the things that you've seen within there. What's your recommendations and tips regarding images on your site?
Unique images as much as you can. And if you can't get unique images, try to brand up images with like your website URL or the page URL that actual image is embedded on, making sure that your logo's on there, making sure that you have the actual wording of that page. So if you're trying to rank for best running shoe, best running shoes, and then the logo, just making sure that it's a branded image and then the stock image, because then Google's like, right, okay, there's at least some originality there. The cream of the crop, is that the right saying? The best type of like image that you could probably go after is having actual original images. But I know that 99 or 90% of SEOs aren't going to go and buy every single running shoe, or they're not going to go and buy every single TV and review it. So yeah, that's probably the second best thing that you could do.
What kind of, do you have any tests or results that you've seen from, say, removing stock images and adding unique images around that?
Yeah. So again, do you know what? I was actually quite surprised. I think it might have been Mike Malerno that said this at Digital Unfiltered. He mentioned that he's also seen similar results on one of his local websites. He removed the stock images and he uploaded actual like unique images. Again, I don't know how he got the unique images, or if he actually went around his house and like took a lot of photos of like pipes or whatever it was. But he actually did say that, or it might have been like him, Chris Palmer, or Holly Starks or something like that. Somebody did definitely mention it, Digital Unfiltered, and I've obviously seen the exact same results. Removing stock images and actually uploading unique images. Like, again, if you think of it, like it's the same when it comes to content. Why should Google like rank you higher or even index your content if it's 100% duplicate from jamesdelacy.com or whatever else? So it just makes sense when it comes to images as well to do that.
Nice. We have one more question before we sign off, and it's from the big man, the boss dude, Gareth. He's asking, if you were redirecting a site you acquired, not a domain, a site, so a site that's already built out, would you redirect the homepage of that site to an inner article announcing the purchase, or would you redirect it to the homepage of the site?
So I would go after the acquisition link building methods. If anyone searches 301 acquisition method, you'll see FatRank ranking for it. But essentially what I do when I'm acquiring a domain to redirect to a pre-existing page or a pre-existing website is I will build out, let's say, jamesdelacey.com or James DeLacey. I'll redirect that to that page, and I'll make a big scream and a shout saying, hey, I just recently acquired jamesdelacey.com, and essentially internal link to as many money pages from that inner page as I possibly can. So the link just from the free ones essentially getting passed down to all the money pages.
Nice. That's the way I do it. I actually got sent a cease and desist doing that with as a business. They let the old domain go. So
right. Okay.
They changed their business name, and then I said I acquired their old business. And I'm like, okay, maybe I won't do that again. Maybe I'll do a little differently. But if the business is truly gone, it's an expired domain, yes, do it that way. That's the way I've done it with all my other expired domains. Just don't do what I did.
And then again, like just to concrete things, you can obviously do like a press release and stuff like that. Get a few guest posts through to that page and saying, hey, we've been acquired, blah 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 blah. And that's how I would do it. You're essentially just recycling the link juice as much as you can through to like money pages on your actual physical website.
Awesome. That's a great way to round out this podcast too. But Kasra, where can people find you and follow what you're up to?
So you can find me on kasradash.com or on Twitter, Kasra, I believe it's _dash.
_dash.
So yeah, those are the two places that you can find me. Anywhere else, you can find me on odys.global, and you can also find me on searcheroo.com as well.
Perfect. Well, thanks for coming on, Kasra, and sharing all that. I appreciate it.
Cheers. Thank you so much for having me.